The daughter of Hollywood legend Tommy Lee Jones has tragically passed away, but who really was Victoria Jones, and why has her story remained so quiet for so long? At just 34 years old, Victoria was found dead at a hotel in San Francisco on New Year's Day, shocking fans and raising countless questions. Most people know her father as the Oscar-winning star of The Fugitive, Men in Black, and No Country for Old Men, but Victoria herself lived a life largely out of the public eye. Today, we're going to uncover who she really was, from her rare appearances on the big screen and her single TV role to the family she grew up in, and the challenges she quietly faced behind the Hollywood spotlight. What led to this sudden tragedy? What do we actually know about Victoria's life, and what remains a mystery? By the end of this video, you'll see a side of Victoria Jones that few people ever knew, and understand why her story is both heartbreaking and compelling. The morning of January 1st started quietly in San Francisco, but at the Fairmont Hotel, an emergency unfolded that would shock Hollywood. Just before 3 a.m., the San Francisco Fire Department responded to reports of a medical emergency. When paramedics arrived, they found an adult female, later identified as Victoria Jones, unresponsive. Despite their efforts, she was declared dead at the scene. What really happened that night? Authorities have been tight-lipped. No foul play has been confirmed, and the official cause of death remains unknown. Law enforcement, the hotel staff, and representatives from her family have not provided further details, leaving the public and fans with more questions than answers. Social media erupted with shock and speculation, as people struggled to reconcile the sudden news with the private life Victoria had led. Even in the face of tragedy, one thing is clear: this was a mysterious and heartbreaking loss that has left both family and fans searching for answers that, for now, may never come. But Victoria's story didn't begin that night, and to truly understand her, we have to step back and look at the life she lived before this shocking moment. Victoria Jones was born into a family already living in the glare of Hollywood's spotlight. Her father, Tommy Lee Jones, is an Oscar-winning actor whose career spans decades, with unforgettable roles in films like The Fugitive, for which he took home Best Supporting Actor, Men in Black, No Country for Old Men, and Lincoln. Despite this fame, Tommy has always been known for keeping a private personal life, and that privacy extended to Victoria as well. Her mother, Kimberly Clowley, was Tommy's first wife, and together they also had a son, Austin Jones, who is now 43. Victoria grew up surrounded by Hollywood connections and the glamour of movie sets, yet she largely stayed out of the public eye. She wasn't a social media personality, she rarely attended big Hollywood events, and unlike other celebrity children, she avoided the constant media attention that can often define a life in the spotlight. It's easy to imagine the contrast she experienced, having a father whose face was on every movie poster, yet living her own life quietly, almost in the shadows. That balance between celebrity surroundings and personal privacy shaped who she was, and it makes her story all the more compelling. But being part of such a high-profile family also came with pressures and expectations that most people could never fully understand, pressures that would quietly follow her into her adulthood. Victoria Jones stepped briefly into the Hollywood spotlight herself, though she never sought it as a long-term career. Her first notable appearance was in Men in Black 2 back in 2002, a film starring her father, Tommy Lee Jones. Just a year later, she appeared in an episode of the popular teen drama One Tree Hill, a small but memorable role that hinted at her potential in front of the camera. In 2005, she returned to work under her father's direction in The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada, a film that also involved her stepmother, Dawn Laurel Jones, as the stills photographer. These early experiences placed her in Hollywood's inner circles from a young age, giving her a front-row seat to the world of filmmaking, premieres, and the pressures of celebrity life. But even with this exposure, Victoria chose a path away from constant public attention. Balancing fame and privacy may have shaped her decisions. She dipped her toes into acting, yet never fully immersed herself in the relentless scrutiny of Hollywood. It's a delicate dance, growing up connected to legendary figures but trying to define your own identity, and for Victoria, that balance would quietly define much of her life. Despite her brief stints in Hollywood, Victoria Jones lived a life largely out of the public eye. She rarely appeared in media, kept her social media presence minimal, and seemed to prefer privacy over publicity. For someone with a famous father like Tommy Lee Jones, this was no small feat. The pressure to be visible, to attend events, or to follow in her father's footsteps must have been enormous. Fans and observers have often speculated quietly about the challenges she may have faced behind the scenes. Growing up in the shadow of a Hollywood legend, navigating personal identity, and managing the expectations of those around her likely came with its own set of struggles. Yet, Victoria never publicly shared these details, leaving much of her story unknown. Victoria Jones' story cannot be told without looking at the world she was born into, a world defined by her father's extraordinary career. Tommy Lee Jones is more than an Oscar-winning actor, he is a Hollywood icon, and his fame inevitably cast a long shadow over his family. For Victoria, growing up meant living in the orbit of movie premieres, award shows, and constant media attention, even if she herself remained largely unseen. Her stepmother, Dawn Laurel Jones, was also part of this cinematic universe, working as a stills photographer on films like The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada. Dawn's presence in family projects meant that Victoria was surrounded by both professional filmmaking and family connections, blending the personal with the public. From childhood through adulthood, she experienced firsthand the unusual dynamics of a family deeply entwined with Hollywood's spotlight. For a family of such high profile, grief is never private. The loss of Victoria is felt not just personally but publicly, as fans and media watch every response, every statement, and every interaction. Coping with tragedy while living under constant scrutiny adds layers of complexity to mourning, and it's a weight few outside that world can truly understand. Victoria's story reminds us that behind the fame and success, there are real lives, real losses, and very human emotions playing out in front of the world. Victoria Jones' life may have been brief, and her time in the Hollywood spotlight even briefer, but her story leaves a lasting impression. Her acting roles were few, from Men in Black 2 to The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada and a single episode of One Tree Hill. Yet each appearance showed glimpses of talent and a connection to the cinematic world around her. Beyond her on-screen contributions, Victoria quietly influenced the projects she was part of, often working alongside her father and stepmother, navigating the unique challenges of being part of a famous family while maintaining her own privacy. Her life reminds us that not every impact is measured by fame or awards. Sometimes, influence and presence are felt quietly, behind the scenes. Her story also raises larger questions about the lives of Hollywood's next generation. The children of stars who grow up in the glare of fame yet strive to live their own lives on their own terms. How much of their struggle remains hidden? How do they cope with the expectations, the scrutiny, and the quiet pressures that come with a famous name? Victoria Jones' life may have been private, but her story leaves a public imprint, inviting us to reflect on the complex balance between family, fame, and personal identity. Victoria Jones lived a life both connected to Hollywood and quietly apart from it. She was the daughter of a legendary actor, Tommy Lee Jones, grew up in the shadows of fame, and briefly stepped into the spotlight with a handful of film and television roles. Her sudden death at just 34 in a San Francisco hotel remains surrounded by mystery, with few details confirmed and many questions unanswered. Victoria Jones' story reminds us that behind the bright lights, there are often untold struggles. And the world may never know the full story. She may not have sought fame, but her life touched Hollywood in subtle ways and left an impression on those who knew her. What are your thoughts on Victoria's life and career? Share them below, and let's honor her story by remembering the person behind the headlines.